My daughter-in-law posted a TikTok saying, "My mother-in-law doesn't do anything anymore, it's her duty to take care of the house and the kids." She laughed. As people applauded her honesty, I just smiled and closed the app. I decided to teach her a lesson she would never forget when she came home. She couldn't believe what she was seeing. I never thought it would end up like this, that at the age of 68, my hands scarred from 4 decades of honest work, I would be sitting in the living room of my own house watching thousands of strangers laugh at me. It was a Thursday afternoon. I remember the scent of cinnamon from the coffee I had just brewed, the sound of the birds out on the deck. I had just finished cleaning the whole house as always, and sat down for a moment in my armchair. It was the one I bought 20 years ago that still holds its original navy blue color because I treat it like silk. I picked up my cell phone. I'm not one of those old ladies who can't use technology. I taught myself watching tutorials, asking my neighbor Gladys. I went to TikTok because my granddaughter Kyla had shown me how to use it to look at recipes and cat videos, simple things that made me smile. But that day, the algorithm showed me something different. I saw the face of Jasmine, my daughter-in-law, smiling into the camera with that smile I thought was genuine. She was wearing a pink blouse that I had given her myself for her birthday. The video started with a catchy tune in the background, and her speaking directly to the screen. "Y'all want to know the best thing about having a mother-in-law?" she said with a sing-song voice, raising her eyebrows as if she was about to tell the joke of the year. My heart didn't suspect a thing, yet I don't have to do a single thing around the house, she continued, and my stomach clenched. The camera panned. It showed my kitchen. My kitchen, where I had just been washing the breakfast dishes they'd left behind. I was visible from the back in my yellow floral apron, the same one I'd used for years, because it reminded me of when my husband Richard was still alive. "My mother-in-law, she doesn't have anything else going on in her life," Jasmine said mockingly. "So it's her duty to take care of the house and the kids. I mean, what else is she going to do, sit around watching TV all day?" She laughed, that laugh I knew from family dinners and Sunday afternoons. But now it sounded different. It sounded cruel. The comments loaded onto my screen, thousands. "Lol, you right, that's what grandmothers are for. Get it, girl? Let the old folks work." "Oh, yeah, got to earn that keep." I felt something break inside me. It wasn't a loud, dramatic pain. It was worse. It was like when your favorite antique teacup breaks, and the sound is so quiet you barely hear it, but when you look at the floor, it's shattered into a million pieces. My hands trembled holding the phone. 63,000 likes, 800 comments, thousands of shares. I was turned into the afternoons. Entertainment for thousands of people who didn't know me, who didn't know my name, who didn't know what I had built, what I had sacrificed, what I had given. I closed the application, but the image was etched into my mind, into my soul. I stood up from the armchair. My legs held me, but I felt like I was walking on cotton. I went to the kitchen and poured water into a glass, one of the set I bought when I got married, almost 50 years ago. I drank slowly, trying to get my breathing back to normal. I heard laughter from Jasmine and my son Ethan's bedroom. She was showing him the video. I heard her voice. "Look, baby, it already has over 50,000 likes. People understand." See, and the worst part came next. The voice of my son, my Ethan, the boy I carried in my arms when his father died, and people told me I wouldn't be able to raise him alone. The young man I took on 2 city buses every morning to school because we didn't have a car. The man I hugged on his wedding day, promising him he would always have a home with me. "Oh, Jassy, you're right. Besides, Mom's old now. What else can she do?" They laughed together in that moment. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't break anything. I just smiled, a small, still smile that came from some deep place I didn't even know existed, because in that second, as I listened to their laughter, as I saw the notifications keep popping up on the phone still in my hand, I understood something that would change everything. I had been too good, too quiet, too available. I had confused love with invisibility, and that was about to end. I opened the video again and watched every second of it, every mocking gesture, every comment calling me a gold digger or a burden. And as I watched, my mind began to work, because Jasmine had just made the biggest mistake of her life. She didn't know who she was messing with. She didn't know that this house she walked through so comfortably with such arrogance had an owner, and that owner was not a weak or defeated woman. It was me, Ruthie Mae Jakes, and I was about to remind everyone who built these walls. I turned off my phone, took off my apron, poured myself another cup of coffee and started planning, because if I learned anything in 68 years of life, it's that battles aren't won by shouting, they're won by thinking, waiting, and acting at the exact right moment, and my moment was about to arrive that night. I couldn't sleep. I lay in my bedroom, the smallest one in the house, the one with a view of the alley and not the yard, staring at the ceiling while listening to Ethan and Jasmine snoring. In the master bedroom, the one that had been mine for 30 years, the one I had given up so they could be more comfortable, I woke up at 4 a.m. as usual. My bones already had that internal clock that doesn't need an alarm. I put on my robe, clean but threadbare at the elbows, and went out to the backyard. The air was cool. It smelled like damp earth even though it hadn't rained. I sat down on the concrete bench next to the lemon tree, the tree I planted when Ethan was 5, and that now gave lemons as big as fists, and there in the darkness, still broken only by the yellow light from the street lamp, I let the memories come because I needed to remember. I needed my own history to give me the strength I felt slipping through my fingers. I bought this house in 1988. Let me repeat that so you understand clearly. I bought it with my money, with my hands. I was 28 years old and had just buried Richard's stomach cancer. 4 months from diagnosis until he closed his eyes for the last time, squeezing my hand as if he wanted to take a piece of me with him. I was left alone with Ethan, a 3-year-old who still asked for his daddy every night before bed, with no savings and no family who could help us. My parents had already passed, and Richard's family disappeared as soon as they realized there was no inheritance. People told me, "Sell out. Ruthie may go back to your hometown, find a man to take care of you." I would smile at them and think to myself, I'd rather die. I got a job at the textile factory in the old industrial district, 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. shift. I sewed pockets onto denim jeans, 500 a day. My fingers bled the first few weeks until they developed calluses so hard I couldn't feel the needles anymore, but it wasn't enough. So I got another job from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. I cleaned offices in a downtown high-rise. I took Ethan with me. I'd sit him in a chair with his crayons and little books while I mopped floors, emptied trash cans, and polished desks where others made important decisions. I slept 4 hours, sometimes 3 on weekends. I sold homemade sweet potato pies and fried chicken dinners that I prepared late Friday nights. I took them in a big cooler to the church bazaar. Ethan helped me shout, "Hot dinners, get your pie and chicken here every dollar." I saved in a metal box I hid under my bed. No luxuries, no new clothes, no going out, just work, just saving, just the dream of having a place of my own where my son could grow up safe. It took me 5 years. 5 years of waking up before the sun and going to bed after it had risen again. 5 years of watching Ethan grow up practically without me, raised between factories and offices, eating cold sandwiches and sleeping on borrowed chairs. But in 1993, when Ethan turned 8, I signed the deed to this house. It was small back then. 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, and a kitchen and living room that were all the same space. The walls had cracks. The roof leaked when it rained hard. The floor tiles were broken. There was no yard, just a patch of dirt and weeds, but it was mine. I cried the day I got the keys. I cried so hard that Ethan got scared and hugged me, saying, "Don't cry, Mommy, we're going to be okay now." And the first started fixing it up. I installed the bathroom tiles myself, watched tutorials at the library, asked for advice from the bricklayers working in the neighborhood. I bought the cheapest materials and installed them with my own hands. Planted the lemon tree. I put pots with red geraniums by the entrance. I built the concrete bench where I was now sitting. By the time Ethan turned 15, we had a full yard. We held his birthday party right here. We invited 30 people. There was music, barbecue ribs, and German chocolate cake that I made using my grandmother's recipe. My son hugged me that night and said, "Thank you for giving us this home. Mom, someday I'm going to take care of you just like you took care of me." I treasured those words in my heart. When Ethan finished high school, I expanded the house. I took out a loan and built 2 more bedrooms, 1 for him, 1 for me. I separated them with a hallway so he could have privacy. I gave him his own closet, his own space for when you bring your wife home. I joked. He laughed. "Mom, you're always going to be the queen of this house." I paid off that loan in 3 years, working double shifts again without complaining because it was for my son, for our future. Ethan studied business administration At City College I paid for his books, his bus fare, his food. I worked cleaning houses on Saturdays and Sundays so he could concentrate on his studies and not have to work. He graduated with honors. We cried together on his graduation day. He gave me a bouquet of yellow flowers, my favorites, and told all his classmates, "These are from my mom. She's the reason I'm standing here." I was the proudest woman in the world. 2 years later, he met Jasmine. She worked as a receptionist at the firm where Ethan got his first job. She was pretty, friendly, well-spoken. I liked her from the start. When Ethan told me they were getting married, I hugged her and said, "Welcome to the family, sweetheart. This house is yours too." I meant every word. We organized the wedding here in the backyard. We didn't have money for a big venue, but we made it beautiful. Lights strung in the trees, tables with white tablecloths that I sewed myself, food prepared with the help of the neighbors. Jasmine cried with happiness. She hugged me and said, "Thank you, mother-in-law. Ethan is so lucky to have a mom like you." When they came back from their honeymoon, a 3-day weekend at a South Carolina beach resort that I paid for, I offered to let them stay in the house while they saved up for their own place. "It's not forever," Ethan said. "Just until we get enough for a down payment on a condo. Take all the time you need," I replied, and I gave them the master bedroom, my room, the one with the big closet, the window overlooking the yard, the private bathroom I had worked so hard to build. "You two are young, you need your space," I told them as I moved my things to the small room. Ethan protested. Jasmine said, "Oh, mother-in-law, you don't have to do that," but I insisted because that's just who I am. I give, I yield, I make myself small so others can grow. Kyla was born, then Samuel the first became the full-time grandmother. I watched the children while Jasmine worked. I bathed them, fed them, helped them with their homework. I got up in the middle of the night when they cried so their parents could sleep. I'm a light sleeper anyway. I'd say I cleaned the house, cooked for everyone, washed their laundry, ironed Ethan's shirts, and bought groceries with my Social Security because I eat less anyway. I never asked for anything in return. I never complained because I thought that was love. But sitting there on the bench at 5 in the morning, the day after that awful video, I realized something that split me in two. I had become invisible in my own home, not because I was old or useless, but because I gave so much that I stopped existing as a person. I became a function, a service, the woman who cleans, cooks, and watches the kids. And the worst part is, I let it happen. The sun began to rise, birds sang in the lemon tree. I heard Ethan's door open and close, footsteps toward the bathroom. I wiped away tears I hadn't realized were falling. I touched the wall of the house, cold, solid, mine. Every brick held my sweat, every tile, my blood, every corner, my history, and no one, absolutely no one, was going to take that away from me, especially not someone who never had to build anything with her own hands. Got up from the bench, straightened my back, and took a deep breath. The war had begun, but first I needed to know exactly what I was fighting. I waited until breakfast. I prepared smothered pork chops and grits, Ethan's favorite since he was a boy, with shredded chicken, cream, and fresh cheese. Set the table carefully, clean plates, folded napkins, freshly squeezed orange juice, and the glass pitcher I inherited from my mother. Jasmine came down first. She was wearing silk pajamas that cost over $75. I know because I saw the receipt in her bag. Her hair was pulled back in a perfect ponytail. She looked rested. "Radiant morning, mother-in-law," she said, with that sing-gong voice that now sounded completely fake to me. I didn't answer right away. I just looked at her as I poured coffee into her favorite mug, the one with the floral design that she bought herself and that no one else is allowed to use. "Jasmine," I said finally, my voice calm, "I need to talk to you." She looked up from her phone because she hadn't even stopped checking it to greet me. "Yeah, what's up?" Her tone was distracted, uninterested. "I saw your video." The silence that followed was so heavy I could feel the air change in the kitchen. Jasmine blinked once, twice, then she let out a nervous little laugh. "Oh, mother-in-law, what video? Are you talking about the one on TikTok where you say it's my duty to take care of the house and your children because I don't do anything else with my life?" Her cheeks turned red, but it wasn't shame. I saw in her eyes it was annoyance. Annoyance that I had caught her. "Oh, you're exaggerating. It was just a joke." She got up to pour more coffee, turning her back to me. People understood it was a joke. 63,000. People laughing at me. That doesn't sound like a joke, Jasmine. I heard footsteps on the stairs. Ethan was coming down. He was wearing the pajamas I got him for Christmas, and his hair was messy. He looked tired. He works hard, I know, but when he saw my face, he knew something was wrong. "What's going on?" he asked, looking back and forth between us. Jasmine got ahead of me. She approached him with that victim look I now recognize perfectly. Your mom is mad about a video I posted, but honey, it was just a joke. Everyone on TikTok knows. It's fun content. It's not meant to be taken seriously. Ethan looked at me, and in his eyes, I saw something that hurt more than 1,000 videos doubt. He doubted me. Mom, what video was she talking about? I took out my cell phone. My hands trembled slightly, but I held it steady. I opened TikTok and searched for Jasmine's profile. The video was still there. It now had 92,000 likes. I showed him. Ethan watched the whole thing. I saw his eyes moving, following the images, reading the comments, watching his expression go from curiosity to discomfort. But then he spoke, and his words were worse than any insult. Mom, I think you're overreacting. Felt like someone had dumped a bucket of ice water on my back. Overreacting, I repeated, my voice barely a whisper. It's just that. Ethan scratched the back of his neck, uncomfortable. It's just a video. Jasmine has a lot of followers. She makes that kind of content. It's not personal. It's not personal. My voice rose without me being able to control it. She filmed me without my permission. She put me on display in front of thousands of people. She said, it's my duty to serve you two, and it's not personal. Jasmine crossed her arms. She was no longer pretending to be sorry. Mother-in-law, you told me yourself 2 weeks ago that you loved watching the kids, that it was the best part of your life. I was just repeating your words. It was true. I had said that, but not in the way she presented it. Not with that mocking tone. Not to justify using me. Besides, Jasmine continued, now more confident because she saw Ethan wasn't defending me. We all live here together. It's normal for everyone to contribute. We pay the utilities, the food, you help with the house, we all contribute. Something in my chest tightened so much. I thought I was going to pass out. You pay the utilities. I asked slowly. The food. Well, yeah, Ethan said, as if it were obvious. The electric bill, the gas, the water, the groceries. It all comes out of my paycheck. I sat down in the chair because my legs wouldn't hold me anymore. Ethan, I said, looking him straight in the eye. Do you know whose name is on the deed to this house? He frowned. What does that have to do with anything? Answer me. I don't know. Dad's, I guess, or both of yours. Jasmine was looking at me curiously now, too. I felt something break inside, not from sadness, but from pure indignation. This house is in my name, only my name. I bought it in 1993 with my money. Every dollar I paid for the down payment, every monthly payment for 15 years came from my hands. Your father never saw it finished because he died before I could buy it. I built the bathroom with my hands. I laid these tiles. I planted that yard where your children play. And I have never ever charged you a single dollar in rent. The silence was absolute. The utilities you pay so proudly are for my house. The food you buy is cooked on my stove, stored in my refrigerator, served on my table. You sleep in my bedroom. You bathe in my bathroom. You breathe in my living room. I watched Jasmine clench her jaw, and never in the 5 years you two have been living here have I asked for anything but respect. Mom, calm down, Ethan said, and that phrase was the final straw. Calm down after your wife put me on display in front of thousands of people, after they called me a gold digger, a useless old woman, a family burden, after you two laughed at me. Ethan turned pale. You heard us. I heard you two laughing at the video yesterday afternoon. You said, oh, Jassy, you're right. Besides, Mom's old now. What else can she do? My son looked down. He couldn't meet my gaze, but Jasmine could, and what I saw in her eyes chilled my blood. There was no remorse. There was only annoyance. Well, if it bothers you so much, she said, releasing the words like daggers. I can delete the video. Happy. It's not about the video, Jasmine. It's about respect. It's about this being my house, and I deserve to be treated with dignity in it. Nobody disrespected you, she yelled, raising her voice. Now, you're the one making a huge drama out of something everyone does on social media. You should be grateful I included you in my content. Other influencers charge people to appear in their videos. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I looked at my son, hoping he would say something. Defend me. Set boundaries with his wife. But Ethan only said, his voice tired. Mom, I think you're both overreacting. Jasmine, delete the video. Mom, forgive her. Let's just drop it. I don't want fights in this house. And that's when I understood everything. My son wouldn't defend me. He had chosen false peace over justice. He had chosen not to inconvenience his wife over protecting his mother. I got up from the table. The pork chops and grits had gotten cold. No one had touched them. You're right, I said with a calm. I didn't feel. I don't want fights. Have a good day. I went up to my room, locked the door, and for the first time in a long time I cried, but not out of sadness, out of rage, because I had just discovered that in my own house, the one I built with my hands, the one I paid for with my blood and sweat, I was worth less than the comfort of a manipulative daughter-in-law and the cowardice of a blind son. But if I learned anything in this life, it's that tears dry up and rage turns into action. I dried my face, opened my bedside table drawer, took out an old notepad where I kept important numbers, and started making calls because Jasmine and Ethan had just made a terrible mistake. They thought that because I was older, I was weak. They were about to learn that the women of my generation didn't survive by being weak. We survived by being smarter than our enemies. 3 days passed. 3 days in which I acted as if nothing had happened. I prepared breakfast, picked up toys, and smiled when the children hugged me. I greeted Jasmine politely when she walked past me, as if I were part of the furniture, but inside, everything had changed now. I observed, I listened, and I took mental notes of every detail I used to let slide. On Monday night, Jasmine went out with her friends. She came back at 11, smelling of cigarettes and expensive perfume. I didn't recognize Ethan was asleep. He didn't ask her anything when she came in on Tuesday while cleaning there. Because yes, I was still doing it, even though every fiber of my being screamed at me to stop. I found a receipt from an Italian restaurant, $150 for a dinner for 2 dates, Wednesday of last week, the day Jasmine told me she was going to run errands at the bank. I didn't say anything. I just folded the receipt and put it in my apron pocket. Wednesday was when everything changed. It was almost midnight. I couldn't sleep lately. I was sleeping worse than ever, tossing and turning, thinking about everything that had happened. I went downstairs to the kitchen for a glass of water with lemon, that remedy that always calms my nerves. The house was dark and quiet. I could only hear the hum of the refrigerator and the distant bark of a dog in the street. I poured my water, squeezed half a lemon into it. I was about to go back up when I heard Jasmine's voice. It was coming from the backyard. She was on the phone. I froze by the kitchen door, standing in the shadows with the glass in my hand. "No, Mom, not yet," Jasmine said, her voice low but clear. "I told you this takes time." Silence. I heard someone on the other end. I know, but I can't just pressure her. The old lady is more stubborn than we thought." My heart started beating faster. "Look, I'll explain it to you again," Jasmine continued, her tone impatient. "As soon as she dies, this house automatically passes to Ethan. He's her only son, and what's Ethan's is mine. That's how inheritance works." I felt the floor moving beneath my feet. The lawyer told me that since we've been living here for 5 years, we have possession rights. We can claim we've contributed to the maintenance of the property. Besides, she's old. How much time does she have left? 10 years. 5. She spoke of my death as casually as one speaks of the weather. "No, Ethan doesn't know anything," Jasmine said, letting out a dry laugh. "And he can't know. You know how sentimental he is about his dear old mommy. If I tell him the house is going to be ours, he'll start crying and saying his mother deserves respect and all that nonsense." I had to cover my mouth to stop the scream trying to escape my throat. "Of course I respect her, Mom, but we have to be practical. This house is easily worth $450,000. Do you know how much we could do with that money? Sell it, buy something bigger in a better neighborhood, invest the leftovers. $450,000. My house, my life, my sacrifice reduced to a number in this woman's head. Look, I already talked to the lawyer last week. He explained everything. Since the house is only in her name and there's no registered will, it passes directly to the forced heir, which is Ethan, period. He doesn't even have to do anything. It's automatic." Heard the click of a lighter. Jasmine was smoking, something she always denied when Ethan asked her if she still had that vice. The only problem would be if she makes a will and leaves the house to someone else, but who? She doesn't have anyone else, and I seriously doubt someone her age is thinking about those things. Old ladies from her generation don't go to notaries or draw up papers. They live in the past. I felt the rage rise through my chest like hot lava. Besides, even if she did make a will, I checked. Forced heirs can claim their share. Ethan will always be entitled to something, so either way we win another. Silence. I heard her take a long drag from the cigarette. The video. "Oh, Mom, that was different. That was for my audience, for the engagement. You know how this works. The more controversy, the more views, and yeah, the old lady got mad, but she'll get over it. What's she going to do? Kick us out? She doesn't have the guts. You saw how dramatic she got. But at the end of the day, she kept cooking and cleaning like always." That's when something inside me stopped hurting and began to burn. "Don't worry," Jasmine said with a confidence that made me sick. "Everything is under control. I'll make sure to keep her happy and useful as long as she keeps believing we're a happy family. She won't make any strange moves, and when the time comes, well, we got it. The house is ours." She hung up. I heard her footsteps approaching the house. I moved quickly. I went up the stairs as silently as I could, my heart pounding against my ribs so hard I thought my chest would explode. Entered my room, locked the door, and leaned against it, my legs trembling. I still had the glass of water in my hand. I placed it on the bedside table so carefully it didn't make a sound. And then I realized something. I'd left my cell phone in the pocket of my robe, and without thinking, purely by instinct, or maybe because God was guiding me, I had pressed record when I heard Jasmine's first sentence with shaky hands. I pulled out the phone. The audio had recorded everything, every word, every plan, every lie. 8 minutes and 43 seconds of pure evidence. I sat on the bed and listened to the audio in full to make sure it had recorded properly. Jasmine's voice was clear. Her words were unmistakable. When it finished, I stared at the phone screen, and for the first time in days, I smiled. Not a bitter smile, not a sad smile, the smile of a woman who has just found the winning cards in a game she thought she had lost, because Jasmine was right about one thing: the women of my generation don't usually go to lawyers, except when we do. I looked at the clock. It was 1 a.m, too late to call, but not too late to plan. I opened the notepad where I kept important numbers. I flipped through the pages until I found what I was looking for. Azure Williams, my sister friend for 30 years, a retired real estate attorney who stepped down 5 years ago, but had more legal knowledge in her pinky finger than any young lawyer, and below that, another number: Leo Jakes, my nephew, son of my brother Jerry, who died 10 years ago, a family law and probate specialist, a good man who visited me every month and always told me, "Auntie, anything you need, you call me." I had never needed anything until now. I hid the phone under my pillow as if it were a treasure, because it was my ammunition. I lay down, but I didn't sleep. I couldn't. My mind was working at full speed, drawing up plans, calculating moves, thinking 3 steps ahead. Jasmine thought she was smart. Jasmine thought I was a naive old woman who would let herself be used until the day I died. Jasmine didn't know who she was messing with, because I had survived the death of my husband. I had raised a son alone. I had built a house with my own hands. I had worked 20 hours a day for years, and she thought she would beat me with cheap lies and mediocre plans. Poor girl, she had no idea of the storm she had just unleashed. The next morning, I went down to breakfast as usual. I made eggs and beans, poured coffee, and greeted them with a smile. Jasmine looked at me with that air of superiority I now recognized perfectly. "Morning, mother-in-law," she said with false sweetness. "Morning, dear," I replied, and as I served her plate, as I watched Ethan read the newspaper without paying attention to me, as I listened to my grandchildren fight over the TV remote, I thought of only one thing: enjoy these days, because your world is about to crumble. And this time there won't be a TikTok video to save it. On Thursday at 10 a.m, while Jasmine was at the gym and Ethan was at work, I left the house with my most discreet handbag and the cell phone tucked safely into my pocket. I told the children I was going to the market. Kyla barely looked up from her tablet. Sam was watching cartoons. I took a taxi, an expense I normally avoid, but this was urgent. I gave the driver the address of the firm where Azure used to work before she retired. She now lived in a small condo near downtown in a building from the 1970s with mustard-colored walls and plants on every balcony. I rang the bell. I heard hurried footsteps. "Who is it?" Azure's voice asked over the intercom. "It's me, sister friend Ruthie May." Brief silence, then the buzz of the door opening. I climbed the 3 flights of stairs because the elevator was always broken. Azure met me at her apartment door, her white hair pulled back in a bun, and her glasses hanging from a chain over her knitted burgundy sweater. "Ruthie May," she said, looking at me with those sharp eyes that miss nothing by the look on your face. "This isn't a social visit." I stepped inside. The apartment smelled of freshly brewed coffee and the cinnamon candles Azure always loved. We sat in her small, cozy living room filled with books and family photos. "Tell me everything," she said without preamble, as she poured me a cup of coffee into delicate china, and I told her everything: the video, the humiliation, the conversation. I overheard Jasmine's plan to take my house. When I finished, I took out my phone and played the audio for her. Azure listened without interrupting. Her expression went from neutral to annoyed, then to downright furious. When the audio ended, she took off her glasses and rubbed the bridge of her nose. "That wretch," she said, her voice flat. "Azure never curses the fact that she did now, told me how serious the situation was. Does Ethan know anything about this? Nothing, according to Jasmine. He's completely clueless. Typical Azure. Took a long sip of her coffee. Sons are always the last to see what their wives truly are. So, what do you want to do, sister friend? I want to protect my house. I want them to learn a lesson, and I want Ethan to open his eyes. Azure nodded slowly, thinking first things first, your house is in your name, correct? Yes, only in my name. I don't know why, but something stopped me from putting it in Ethan's name. That something is called instinct, and it saved you, Azure said, putting her glasses back on second. Do you have a will? I shook my head. Then Jasmine is right about one thing. If you die without a will, the house automatically passes to Ethan as the forced heir, but that can be fixed. You need to create a will, and you need to talk to my nephew, Leo. I thought the same thing. I have his number. Call him now. I'm going to text him too. That boy is good, and he's discreet. I dialed the number while Azure sent a WhatsApp message. Leo answered on the third ring. Aunt Ruthie May, everything okay? His voice was warm, concerned. Leo was 38. He was an only child, and after his father, my brother Jerry, died of a heart attack, had helped him with college expenses. He had never charged me, but he always told me he owed me everything. Leo, I need to see you. It's urgent, and it's legal. There was a pause. Where are you with your Aunt Azure? I'm leaving a hearing in 20 minutes. I'll be there in 40. Don't move. He hung up. Azure smiled. That boy is one of the good ones, just like his daddy. We spent the next 30 minutes drinking coffee and planning. Azure, with her legal mind sharp even after retirement, explained my options. You can make a will where you leave the house to whomever you want. Ethan, a foundation, a church, me if you like. It's your property. I don't want to disinherit my son. He's a victim of her. I know that too, but you can set conditions. You can create a trust. You can divide the property. There are many legal options that protect your interests. And teach that snake a lesson without leaving your son homeless. And the video, can I do anything about that? Azure twisted her mouth. Legally, it's complicated. You didn't sign any consent to appear in the video, but since it was filmed in your own house and she lives there, it's a gray area. You could ask for it to be taken down for unauthorized use of your image, but it would be a long process. I don't want long processes. I want quick justice. Then let's go for what really hurts, the assets. You take away what she truly wants and destroy her without even stepping into a courtroom. I smiled. That's why Azure had been the best real estate attorney in the area. There was a knock on the door. Leo had arrived. I saw him through the peephole, tall, strongly built, with a neatly trimmed beard and a dark gray suit. He was carrying a leather briefcase. Azure opened the door. Auntie, Leo greeted, kissing her cheek. Then he turned to me. Aunt Ruthie May. He hugged me, a real hug, the kind that reminds you you're not alone in the world. The three of us sat around the coffee table. Leo took out a notepad and a pen. Tell me everything. And I did. For the second time that morning, I narrated the entire story. I showed him the audio. Leo listened with an increasingly serious expression. When the audio finished, he closed his notepad and leaned back against the couch. Auntie, that woman is not just manipulative. She's dangerous, and what she's saying is technically correct from a legal point of view, but ethically it's trash. Can I do something? You can do a lot, and we're going to do it. Leo opened his briefcase and took out several documents. Option 1. A public will. You establish who inherits what, under what conditions. It's ironclad if done correctly. Can I set conditions? Of course. You could say Ethan inherits the house only if he gets divorced. You could say the house is sold and the money is split among your grandchildren. You can create a trust where you maintain control until your death, and then it passes to whomever you designate. The options are many. I don't want to punish Ethan. I want to protect myself from her. Leo nodded. Then I suggest this. You create a living trust. You are the grantor and the lifetime beneficiary. That means the house remains yours and only yours while you live. No one can claim it, sell it, or do anything with it. When you die, you designate heirs with whatever conditions you want. Jasmine couldn't touch it. With a 10ft poll, the trust is completely protected. Even if Ethan inherited later, it would come in as his separate property, not communal. She wouldn't have any right to it. I felt a weight lift from me. How long does that take? If we start today, it'll be ready in 1 week. I need you to bring me the house deed, your official ID, and you'll come with me to the attorney's office next Tuesday. I'll take care of preparing everything. Is there anything else? I asked, taking a deep breath. I want them out of my house. Leo and Azure exchanged looks. Evict them. Leo asked, I don't know if that's the right word, but I don't want to keep living with someone who's waiting for me to die so she can take what is mine legally. You can. It's your house. They don't have a lease agreement. They live there by your goodwill, and you can withdraw that goodwill whenever you want. It's that simple. But Auntie Leo looked at me with concern. Ethan is your son. This is going to break up the family. Are you sure? I stayed silent for a long moment. I thought about the cold pork chops, the mocking laughter, the viral video, the plan to steal my house, the blindness of my son. The family is already broken. Leo, I'm just making visible what they destroyed in secret. Azure squeezed my hand. Then we'll do this right, Leo said. And we'll do it legally. I'll help you every step of the way. We left 2 hours later with a clear plan. On Tuesday, we would go to the attorney to drop the trust. On Wednesday, Leo would help me do a legal inventory of everything that was mine in the house, and on Saturday, the day they would be away, we would execute the master plan. I took a taxi home. It was 3 in the afternoon. Jasmine was in the living room painting her nails while watching a show on TV. She didn't even look up when I came in. Did you buy vegetables? She asked without taking her eyes off the screen. I forgot. I lied. I'll go tomorrow. Oh, mother-in-law, how scatterbrained. Well, we'll have to order pizza. Then I looked at her there, so comfortable in my armchair, using my electricity, breathing my air, planning to steal my life, and I smiled. Yes, dear, order pizza. I went up to my room, locked the documents Leo had given me in a drawer, and dialed one more number on my cell phone. Hello, Cousin Marka. It's Ruthie. May I need a favor, and it has to do with social media. Marcia, my second cousin, was 50 years old and had over 200,000 followers on TikTok. She was famous for her traditional cooking videos, but she also knew how the algorithm worked, how to make something go viral, how to tell a story that hits you right in the heart. Tell me everything, she said with that energy that always characterized her. And I told her when I finished. Marcia let out a long whistle. Cousin, that girl messed with the wrong person. When you're ready for your revenge, you let me know. I'll make sure half of America hears about it. I hung up. Everything was in place, the chess pieces set, the plan drawn. Now all that was left was to wait for the exact moment to move the queen and destroy the enemy's king. The weekend brought unexpected news. Jasmine walked into the kitchen on Friday night with her cell phone in her hand, and that spoiled child smile she wore when she wanted something. Mother-in-law, she said, her voice sugary. Guess what we want? A weekend getaway at the Grand Cypress Resort. A work raffle, all paid for, hotel, meals, spa. We leave early tomorrow and get back late Monday night. My heart jumped, but I kept my face neutral. That's wonderful, dear. You deserve it. You've both been working so hard. Ethan appeared behind her, carrying a suitcase. Mom, are you sure you'll be okay? It's 3 days. It's 3 days, son. I'm 68, not 88. I can take care of myself. But the kids, he began to say, the children are staying with me. Or were you planning to take them to the spa? I said, raising an eyebrow. Jasmine and Ethan exchanged uncomfortable looks. Well, we thought, Jasmine bit her lip, that they could come with us. There's a kids' pool, or they can stay with Grandma and have a good time here. We'll make cookies, watch movies, go to the park. I looked at Kyla and Sam, who had just run in. What do you two prefer? Kids, boring spa with your parents, or fun weekend with Grandma? With Grandma, they both shouted at the same time. Case closed. I saw the annoyance in Jasmine's eyes, but she didn't say anything. Ethan looked relieved not to have to deal with the children on their romantic getaway. They left at 7 Saturday morning. I waved them off at the door with hugs and kisses. Jasmine gave me a loose hug, the kind that means nothing. Take care, mother-in-law, and watch the kids closely as always, I replied with my best obedient grandmother smile. Ethan kissed my forehead. Thanks, Mom, you're the best. I watched them get into the car, watched them drive away down the street, watched them turn the corner and disappear. I closed the door, took a deep breath, and took out my cell phone. Low. They're gone. Perfect. I'll be there in 30 minutes with the truck. I went upstairs to wake the children. Gave them a quick breakfast of cereal, milk, and bananas. Grandma, are we going to the park? Sam asked, his mouth full later. Sweetheart, first, Grandma has some things to do in the meantime. Do you want to watch movies on my tablet? Their eyes lit up. I normally didn't let them watch TV in the morning, so this was a treat. I set them up in the living room with blankets and my tablet loaded with their favorite cartoons. Gave them cookies and juice. They would be entertained for at least 2 hours at 8:30. Leo arrived. He wasn't alone. He had a small moving truck and 2 strong men in blue overalls. Auntie Leo greeted me, getting out of his SUV. "I'd like you to meet Roberto and Chewy. They're trustworthy. They work with a friend of mine, discreet and fast." The men greeted me respectfully, taking off their caps. "Good morning, ma'am. Where should we start?" I opened the front door, the master bedroom. Everything in there is theirs, clothes, furniture. They brought their personal belongings. Everything comes out. Leo took out a notepad. "Let's do this properly. I'm going to list every single thing we take out, photos too, just in case they accuse us of theft. We'll have evidence that we only removed what belonged to them for the next 3 hours. Those 2 men worked like organized ants. They carried out the modern dresser Jasmine had bought 2 years ago, the king-sized bed they brought when they got married because the one in the house was too old, the vanity with the LED-lit mirror, the floating shelves, the 50-inch television Ethan installed on the wall, every shoebox of Jasmine's, every suit of Ethan's, every dress, every tie, every perfume, every facial cream, every beauty product, everything. Leo took photos of each item before it went downstairs. I checked off a list. "The bookshelf," I said, pointing to the dark wood unit next to the window. "Are you sure it's nice?" Leo said they bought it a year ago. I had an old pine one that's in the backyard shed now, but they put this one in it for us. The men disassembled it and took it out piece by piece. When we finished with the master bedroom, it looked like a vacant hotel room, only the walls painted light blue, the color I chose 15 years ago, and the hardwood floor I had paid for myself remained now. "The bathroom," I said, "everything comes out. Jasmine's expensive products, which cost over $35 each. Ethan's electric toothbrush, the new towels they bought last year, the laundry basket they brought, even the bath mat. Left only the old towels that were mine, and a basic bar of soap." "The living room?" Roberto asked, wiping sweat from his forehead. I looked around. The gray sectional sofa took up half the space. They bought it 2 years ago, and my navy blue fabric one didn't match their style. Out the television, that's theirs too. The one I had was smaller, and they put it in their room. They carried out the sofa, the glass coffee table, the 60-inch television, the sound system, even the decorative plants in modern pots that Jasmine had put in to liven up the space. I brought my old navy blue armchair out of the shed. It was a little worn, but clean and comfortable. We put it back in its usual spot. My 32-inch television returned to the living room. My carved wooden coffee table, which had belonged to my mother, recovered its place. The house was starting to look like my house again. "The kitchen," Chewy asked. "Take out the Italian coffee maker Jasmine brought, the set of non-stick pans they bought, the new blender, the microwave oven they installed, everything that wasn't here before they moved in. We even opened the china cabinet. This set of minimalist white plates is theirs," I said, pointing to the square dishes. I hated take the whole set. "I have my floral plates stored away." Leo looked at me with something close to admiration. "Auntie, you are ruthless." "I'm fair. I keep what's mine. They take what's theirs." "What's the problem?" He smiled. "By 12, the truck was full. Where are we taking it?" Roberto asked. "To the Maplewood Avenue storage unit," Leo said, handing him a paper with the address. "It's already rented and paid for 1 month. Here's the key." I handed him the key. I had gotten on Thursday a 60-feet storage unit, enough for all their things. The men left with the truck. Leo stayed with me now for the interesting part, he said, taking a small toolbox out of his SUV. He changed the lock on the front door. The old silver lock that had been there for 15 years was replaced by a new gold steel one here, he said, handing me 3 new keys, one for you, one spare, and one just in case. "Is this legal?" I asked, even though I already knew the answer completely. "It's your house. You can change the locks whenever you want. They have no tenants' rights because they don't pay rent legally. They are guests living here by your goodwill." I put the keys in my pocket. The house looked different, emptier, but more mine, as if it had recovered its soul. I cleaned everything, swept, mopped, dusted, arranged my old furniture in its original places. I took out the photographs I had stored away of Richard, of Ethan when he was a boy, of my parents, and put them back on the walls. I put tablecloths on the dining table, the hand-embroidered ones my mother gave me when I got married. I watered the plants in the yard, and when I finished, I sat in my navy blue armchair in my living room, in my house, and had a cup of coffee in my favorite mug, the one with the little flowers that Jasmine had banished to the back of the cabinet for being old-fashioned. The children were still watching cartoons, oblivious to everything. Leo sat down next to me. "How do you feel about this?" I pondered the question. I Looked for guilt, remorse, doubt. I found nothing but peace. Feel free, I said. Finally, he nodded. They're going to come back Monday. Are you ready for that? More than ready. It's going to be ugly, Auntie. No, but the ugly part already happened when they turned me into a meme, when they planned to rob me, when my son laughed at me. That was ugly. This. Is Justice. Leo stood up. I'll be here Monday, whatever time you tell me. You won't be alone. Thank you, nephew. After he left, I made my grandchildren's favorite dinner, homemade chicken tenders, French fries, and colored gelatin. We ate in the backyard, sitting on the concrete bench. Under the lemon tree. Grandma, why did they take so many things out of the house? Kyla asked suddenly. My 9-year-old granddaughter was more observant than anyone. Thought I was tidying up. Sweetheart, sometimes you have to take out what's not working anymore to make space for better things. My parents are going to be mad. I looked into her eyes, those light brown eyes she had inherited from Ethan. Maybe, but sometimes adults have to do difficult things so everyone can learn. Do you understand? She nodded. Although she probably didn't understand entirely, the rest of the weekend was strangely peaceful. We played, watched movies, and made chocolate chip cookies. I read them stories before bed in my bed. All three of us squeezed in, but happy. On Sunday night, after putting the children to bed, I sat in the dark living room. Tomorrow they would return. Tomorrow they would see what I had done. Tomorrow everything I'd change. I took out my cell phone and wrote a message to Leo. Get here at 5 in the afternoon. They'll be here by then. His reply was immediate. I'll be there, Auntie, with all the legal backup you need. I put the phone away. I looked around my house, my real house, the one I built, the one I defended, the one no one was going to take from me, and I waited because the storm was about to break, and this time I was the lightning. On Monday at 4:30 in the afternoon, I heard the car park in front of the house. I was sitting in my navy blue armchair, my hands crossed in my lap, my back straight. I had made coffee, a full pot, because this was going to be long. The children were in the backyard playing with their toy cars. I had told them not to come out until I called them. I heard the car doors close, voices, laughter. They were happy from their weekend getaway. Footsteps approached the door, the sound of a key entering the lock, turning without opening. Silence again. The key, the attempt, the resistance. What's up? It won't open, Ethan's confused voice said. Try again, Jasmine said, impatiently. More attempts, more metallic sounds of frustration as it jammed. Ethan sounded worried. I stood up from the armchair and smoothed my dress. I was wearing my favorite, the beige one with embroidered flowers, the one I wore for important occasions. I walked to the door from inside. I could hear them struggling with the lock. I opened it. Ethan was there, a key in his hand, sweating. Jasmine was behind him.